I want to start this podcast off by introducing a lot of the new ADOS people on social media to social media. I want to be the first one to tell you guys welcome. I know for a fact a lot of you guys are real people. I've had the joy of arguing with you guys on many of BreakingBrown episodes, and I just want to be the first one to say welcome. I also want to be the first ones to warn you, especially those of you who have joined the fray on Twitter, that you have entered a den of vipers. Now, I've talked to a couple of you guys online and in the DMs on Twitter, and it's been made clear to me that you guys are outside of your element, and I'll go further on that in a minute. I've been watching Yvette and Antonio for a long time, and they appear to be very honest, very truthful, very knowledgeable people. But I feel where their weakness is and where my strength is, and how that can be useful to all you guys, is I feel their weakness is in their morality. I feel that they have a heightened sense of morality and a heightened overdeveloped sense of honor. And because of that, that can sometimes weigh you down when it comes to moving in a dirty world. And I feel like that'll be you guys' biggest problem. And I shouldn't even be saying you guys, because as far as your speaking points, I agree with all of them. I mean, if you're African American and you go against reparations, you're a sellout. So, of course, I'm riding with you. Now, I want to introduce throughout the course of this podcast what I feel my specialty is, which is subterfuge and sabotage. You see, Yvette appears to be a good woman, and Antonio appears to be a good, honest man. And I'm not. And that's where I feel we can work together. You guys need people who are willing to also do the dirty work while not really being affiliated with you, but being supportive of you. Everybody needs a dirty player on their team or two. Now, I knew, and this was something I used to ask Yvette back in the day, and this was my only point of contention with Yvette and Antonio because you got me totally convinced on your argument for reparations. I don't even care if we don't have a how nailed down just yet, because that's their job to figure out how. Not Antonio and Yvette, but Congress, Senate, the White House, Supreme Court. That's their job to figure out the how. My issue was and always is as follows. Yvette has walked us all through the entire history of this country and its relationship with Black Americans, and how they've always skated out on making right what they did wrong with us. And one sticking point with me was always Reconstruction, because it's my personal belief that America has not moved forward for Black people since Reconstruction. And my issue was, I feel that Black people historically have, quote unquote, won this argument before a couple of times. The most obvious version being Civil War, Reconstruction. But my question is always, what do you do when you've legally won and they just break out the billy clubs? Now, let me give a little bit more history. Before I even get into Black folks on this one, let me talk about the Indians real quick. There is a legal case on record with the Cherokee Nation that won a lawsuit fair and square in an American court against the state of Georgia. Now, this is in a white court. They won even by white people's rules. Now, they won this lawsuit, but the decision after the lawsuit from Andrew Jackson, who was the sitting president at the time, was, okay, you won your land, now let's see if you can defend it. So they lost the legal proceedings, and rather than obey said legal proceedings from their own court, just said, hey, screw it, we're going to overrun it anyway because we got guns in the military. Flash forward to Reconstruction, they lost a war fair and square. Had to sit through Reconstruction, and about an eighth of the way through said, screw this, we're going to make a militia, the Ku Klux Klan, and we're going to ride in a whomping and a stomping anybody within square footage of us, and we're going to run Negroes out of town and put them back in their place. That's literally why we are where we are right now. So my question to Yvette Carnell, because what I'm seeing is a new Reconstruction. I'm seeing her and Antonio Moore are going to successfully put everybody on notice legally. But what do you do when they just bring out the Alabama Night Riders again and just try to work up another number 6 on us? Now, I had gone back and forth with her on this one for a minute, and she even jokingly referred to me as Che Guevara, but that's another story. But I felt like it was ignoring an important question, because that's not a question you want to cross that bridge when you come to it. You don't want to lead your people into getting hung and lynched to death with no protection. That's very irresponsible. So then I got to thinking, and I said, well, now wait a minute. When you look at the lay of the land, it's not the Klan you got to worry about first. It's going to be, now we normally call them coons, but for the sake of not getting edited on the show, and this is also going to be one of the rules I'm going to give to you guys, is speaking in codes. I call them collaborators. It's a much softer word. It'll take a while for them to catch on with the reference that is referring to as far as who are you collaborating with. You can call them collabs, whatever you want to say. But I prefer to use the word collaborators. It's the same meaning, just a little bit softer of a tone that can slip under their radar, and we can get what we want to get across. You'll notice typing out the coon word in a lot of social media accounts will get you banned, blocked, or edited. So collaborator, or editing the O's out of the word coon, will get you pretty far. Just FYI to anybody listening to this. This is going to be step-by-step instructions today. I'm not really going to preach to anybody about however way I might feel on something. But I was just giving a little bit of a backdrop as to why it may come off like I talk in extremes sometimes when it comes to these matters. Because in a lot of cases, I'm in agreement with people like Yvette, with people like Antonio, with people like Jason Black. But I just have dirtier tactics. I don't go by the people are good rule. So, moving forward, I'm really, really excited to see that Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore, Jason Black, Professor Black Truth, Tariq Nasheed have caused so much damage to the Democratic Party and the political process as a whole that the Democrats are forced to respond. Because make no mistake about it, the Joy Reid hit piece on Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore, the Angela Rye comments, the Roland Martin comments, you only comment on people that are a problem to you. You only comment on people that are a threat to what you're trying to do. So this is signs that a mark has been left on the beast, which is very good. Now you're up against level 1. And this is where I'm a little bit nervous with Yvette, because I'm seeing that the answer to ADOS and her whole movement being called or being accused of being Russian bots is to simply prove that you're not a Russian bot. And that's a bad tactic. That's a bad strategy. So if Yvette, if you're listening, which I doubt, but you know, on the off chance that one of your listeners is listening or whatever, and they can run back and tell you this, I'm telling you that's bad strategy. I can understand your position because you're a wholesome person and you have a true and clear message that you're trying to get through. I do respect it, but I'm telling you that's bad strategy, and here's why. You never, ever, ever want to play on the heels of your feet with an accusation like that, because what's going to happen is you will never satisfy that person to the point to where they will take back that accusation. There's nothing you can do. Showing your ID and showing your face all over, they're not going to cover that. They've made the accusation, and once somebody who is trying to detract from you makes an accusation about you in social media and in this game, only thing they're going to do is elevate news that's going to support their accusation. You can have 1,000 ADOS members show their face, provide fingerprints, verify their accounts, etc., ad nauseum. You get one person that is a bot. You get one thing that looks like a bot. You will be accused of being the bot, and that person will be used as the example of the entire movement. So that's a losing game. Better strategy in this case is there are a number of pro Kamala Harris accounts that are obvious bots that you could use to point out. Now I want to give Yvette an example of somebody who knows how to use their followers and coordinate strategic attacks online and strategic counterattacks. Take notes from Tariq Nasheed's First Them campaign. First Them is a hashtag that's taking on the giant that is the financially backed by big money Me Too movement. That is a national funded, fully funded movement that Tariq Nasheed and his followers are taking on by themselves simply by using a hashtag that collects all the counter information and just keeps going up. Now all those thousands of members and all those thousands of followers he has, that's an army now. Now they're all actively doing something. But going around and having all your ADOS members individually show their identification or prove somehow that they're ADOS, they don't have a hashtag to rally behind, they don't have any kind of a campaign, that's a bad strategy. It's going to get lost in the sauce. What I would suggest is to create a completely separate hashtag that's on message with what you're trying to do. And I feel like the message that you should do is to out all the bots from all of these pro-democratic groups, of which there are many and of which they are easy to find. Very easy to find. As a matter of fact, if we want to play dirty, we don't even have to really prove that anybody's a bot. They didn't have to. If your problem is that your ADOS followers are having their accounts unfairly shut down based on the suspicion from an accusation put out by the Democratic Party, turnabout's fair play. Now, I believe Yvette likes to tell everybody that she only has 50,000 followers. If all 50,000 of your followers happen to file complaints on Twitter about Democratic Party bots, well, then there you go. That would cause enough havoc for them to not want to keep pushing that accusation out there. Remember, the thing that beat McCarthyism and them complaining that everybody was a secret Russian was people putting out even more ludicrously stupid accusations that people were secret Russians. It got to the point where everybody was a suspect, so therefore nobody could be a suspect. If everybody in America is accused of being a secret Russian, we're in Russia now. So I would say do not acquiesce to an accusation. That's never a good move. That's the equivalent of, my brother once told me, don't ever show a jealous girlfriend your cell phone. Not because you got something to hide, but because once she finally gets that phone unlocked, it's not going to satisfy her distrust of you. It's going to make her look for other things. You're always going to be having to prove that you weren't up to nothing because her suspicion's never going to be satisfied. Now she want to check your emails. Now she want to dust your room for fingerprints. Now she want to bring a forensic team in and check for hair, DNA evidence, anything, eyewitnesses. It's never going to be enough. You never do that. Secondly, engaging these accusers directly. I think That is a good strategy because you want to make examples out of people. Now, the person who got this whole party cracking off was a Twitter personality that no black person has ever heard of, named Digital Sister. Now, another thing that is done online that is very useful when you have a big group of followers who are all on the same code. Doxing. Twitter, and by extension all social media, does not work on surfacing truth. Twitter works on the power and strength of your in-crowd of your group. And if you can dox, which means to put private information public, if you can bury people, if you can drag them, if you can dox them, if you can humiliate them to the point to where they submit and want to get offline, look at Demi Lovato, for example, that sends a message and puts out a chilling effect where people who want to talk about your group don't want to talk about your group. Now, if you don't feel right about being so vicious, I understand. You don't have to put out people's personally embarrassing information, but you can put out factual, relevant, related to politics and related to the topic information that'll be just as damning. Major media does it all the time. They do it as warnings. Look, if you don't think that those little articles of old blogs that Joy Reid had made from years ago before she was famous didn't leak as a warning to Joy Reid to stay on code with them, I don't know what to tell you. They do it all the time. They'll dig up a Kevin Hart joke from 10 years ago. Happens all the time. There's plenty of dirt to find out there on people. And the fact that Digital Sister, man, oh my God, you BreakingBrown ADOS people are so sweet and wholesome. Y'all basically found this woman, surrounded her, and wagged your finger at her and walked off and said, good day. Let that woman have said something slick about the black LGBTQ community. Her whole information, including every man she'd ever dated, every job she'd ever gotten fired for, every penny in EBT she's ever used, all that information would have been out on the street. Now again, you don't got to go that far. You don't got to get that personal. I would, but you don't got to go that far. You don't got to get that personal. A simple review of what digital company does she work for would work. You start right there, you'll know, okay, who does she work for? Where does her money come from? People, organization. Our argument is lineage, right? Do we know if this woman is an African American or not? Descendant of slaves? That's our whole thing. So how do we know she's even ADOS? Angela Rice from the Caribbeans, Roland Martin, people from Haiti. It don't take that long to figure this stuff out. You don't got to have them swab their tongue for 23andMe. Little research. Remember, these people are trying to silence you and defame you. You defame defamers. You detract from detractors. It's not hard at all. If they're telling the world, oh, these people are just Russian bots, to get them not to even listen to you, people aren't going to listen to them if they know, oh man, well, she's a scammer. She hasn't had no damn digital job. You look at her tweets from a year ago, she's tweeting about working at Best Buy. Now, that's not true. I'm just saying as an example. So, just to recap real quick before we go any further, you don't acquiesce to an accusation. You counterattack online. You build some sort of a hashtag separate from ADOS. You can put the ADOS hashtag in there also, but your hashtags have to be themed. So if we're keeping with the whole accuse everybody of Russian bots thing, have a Russian bots theme, and every single time you put that Russian bot theme out there, you put that Russian bot hashtag, you're putting on blast another member of another group that's pro DNC. That's an obvious Russian bot that Twitter needs to investigate. Boom, 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 boom. Now they want to call off them dogs. When somebody like Digital Sister comes in and makes an accusation like that, the world got to know, social media got to know, there's a price to pay for messing with ADOS like that. Boom, here's all her information. Her career information. Now she's outed as a collaborator. She's outed as a phony. You can't have her walking around these Twitter streets feeling safe after doing something like that. That sends a message that it's okay. Right now, the message is you can stymie the ADOS movement by simply just putting out dirty accusations and making them acquiesce to them, making them contort to you. And that's not the message you want to put out. So you don't acquiesce to an accusation. You create themed hashtags as part of a targeted attack on these different groups in order to delegitimize their accusation. So it's 2 right there. And then number 3, you want to dox your collaborators. You want to out these people. That's how you fight dirty for starters. That's how you fight dirty for starters. Now 4, because this happened on a major television news network, you want to bring this drama to their door. See, one thing older people do, older people will still write a TV station a letter, and that stuff still works. Now, I'm not saying you got to sit down and handwrite something with a quill pen, but a quick little email would be nice, with a phone number they can reach. I'm a real person, and by the way, I take offense to XXX and X. Don't get too detailed in your story, because as we all know, when people find out you're black, they don't really take things seriously. Now, there's no way for them not to know you're black on this one, but remember, big corporations, especially media outlets, are very risk averse. So when they hear that they've offended a group, they're going to backtrack quicker than Michael Jackson. A couple of thousand of those annoying emails and phone calls. As a matter of fact, I would go phone call. So they got to be on the phone with a human being and be as annoying and long-winded as possible. They're only going to take a couple of hundred of those before they go, all right, we need to retract this statement, so they'll shut up. You want to put this fire out with this Russian bot accusation as soon as possible. Number 5. A good way to counter an accusation is with an accusation of your own. Now, I know that sounds like the second rule I just made about, outing and, putting all these other bots that are for Kamala Harris and for the DNC on blast, but this is a little different. You're going to want to accuse, and there's already a wave for this. The Democratic Party has been pushing that Russian spy button so much, that Russian bot button so much, that the American public is growing tired of it. See, a key to being good at politics is being able to read the tea leaves and know the people. Politics is 1 part policy, 2 parts people. And when you're notorious, as the Democratic Party is, for not being in touch with what it claims to be its people, you're going to be oblivious to the fact that the average American, regardless of party, is thinking like this. Look, you've been telling us that Russian spies and Russian trolls tricked us into not voting for Hillary somehow. You've been promising us that investigator Mueller has damning evidence on Donald Trump. Now, I know people have been being arrested, people have been indicted. The American people do not care about that stuff. The American people, regardless of class, wealth, jobs, anything, is waiting on a smoking gun that an idiot or somebody who just doesn't follow the news that hard could understand. The American public is waiting for Donald Trump in a room with Boris and Natasha. We're waiting for something obvious, a big bag with a dollar sign on it being handed over to a Russian, and another bag that says votes on it. We're waiting for something very obvious that cannot be argued against or interpreted funny to mean that he's a collaborator with the Russians. It's got to be something concrete. And as of yet, every single day, we're waiting on that Mueller detox mixtape to drop, and it never happens. So as far as the American public is concerned, those Russian accusations are unfounded until proven by something that's just overwhelming. So when you got a big accusation, when you got a bunch of different accusations that are depending on a big accusation, and that big accusation hasn't touched ground yet and doesn't look like it'll ever touch ground, everything else looks baseless. And the fact that they keep spamming that Russian bot button makes them look like McCarthyites. It looks like McCarthyism. Now, the Republicans are just now getting around to beating that drum. They've wisely let the Democrats give themselves enough rope with that Russian bot talk to hang themselves with, to where the Republican Party can come out and say, hey, man, provide proof of any of this being Russian spies, or it's McCarthyism. Now, let me tell you something else. Right now, I'm looking at Jill Stein's Twitter page. And Jill Stein, who was an anti-war advocate and about as far away from being an African-American descendant of chattel slavery as you can get, she's a very, very, very white woman, is arguing with people on her Twitter page who are accusing her and her followers of being Russian bots. Now, she's an anti-war advocate. She's an anti-Venezuela invasion advocate. She's arguing with people from the Democratic Party who are accusing her of being a Russian bot. So let's run down this list now. All conservatives are Russian bots. Progressives who are against Venezuelan invasion, Russian bots. Progressives who are too far to the left are Russian bots. And African Americans are Russian bots. Anybody who doesn't agree with the Democratic Party's way is a Russian bot. That's McCarthyism. When you just, and for those of you who don't know, there was a senator, I believe he was from Wisconsin at the time, during the Red Scare, which was an era of suspicion and concern during the budding Cold War with Russia, where there was a senator named McCarthy who just would outwardly blame anybody who didn't agree with him as being a possible communist. And he used this era of paranoia to seize a lot of power before people kind of came to their senses and said, this man's crazy. He doesn't have any kind of actual proof on anything. I mean, people were losing their jobs. People were being questioned by the FBI. People were being arrested and disappeared away, all based on one crazy man just pointing and saying, you're a communist. So we've gotten to that point with the DNC. Now, like I said, you're going to want to throw an accusation their way and force them to contort to your accusation. And that one is going to be, and I feel like the American DOS group need to come out very, very hard on this and saying that the DNC is guilty of McCarthyism. Matter of fact, that could be your hashtag. But push them heavy on being McCarthyites to the point where Republicans are able to use that as an accusation. They have a larger platform than you. And now what that does is it nullifies that Russian bot button. They'll be leery on using it. They won't be able to use it as freely. And when they do use it, the power of it will be nullified. Every time Russian bot comes out with no proof, no smoking gun, people will say McCarthyism, and they'll ignore it. You've just taken away their only weapon. So again, I just want to tell all the ADOS people that all the different black groups, for the most part, are behind you. Even if we don't all agree on every little thing, what real black person gonna fight against reparations? What real black person right now, what real African American would be against tangibles? And we're damn sure not gonna sit back and let some group that we know to be a real legit group that's fighting for people, that are us, to just get attacked by the DNC. Now, we need to get, as a people, we need to get Yvette Carnell or Antonio Moore on the Morning Joy show and not only get their apology, not only get the apology that they're owed right in their face on air so that it can't be denied, but we need to have them be able to get time to explain what ADOS really is. If you're going to slander somebody's name and get called out for it, now you owe them time to explain what they really are. So what we're going to do, what I would suggest we do, is put this barrage on heavy. If you don't remember the rules I just said, play this back. Put this strategy on heavy. And if we do this, this is the stick. Having Yvette or Antonio Moore, really both of them should be on air. Having these two on air to explain their movement is the carrot. That's all I got to say on this show. I just wanted to drop those 5 little bits of strategy right there because I really feel like the way Breaking Brown people go about things, and this is the way I would prefer to go about things, is they sit down, they talk evidence, they talk facts, and that's the end of it. There's no emotion. There's no sneaky tactics. No one's trying to change your words around, and that works great for a Breaking Brown environment, but it doesn't work when you're literally in the belly of the beast battling on hell. You're in hell. You're full of a den of vipers. You're full of liars. You're full of people who have vested interest in. You got to think of people like Angela Rye and Roland Martin and Joy Reid. These people are salesmen who work on commission. And the sales they do is they sell black people to the Democratic Party. That's their job. And they'll do literally anything to keep that job. So you got to understand you're dealing with dishonest people. All of them know the ADOS is a real movement. They understand. But they're getting in on the company line because they're trying to be collaborators. So rather than sitting back dealing with these collaborators and trying to prove that you're ADOS and to prove that you're a real person and not a bot, destroy the collaborators. You have to go harder on the sellouts. You always have to go harder on the sellouts. You're not dealing with the head vampire right now. They'll reveal themselves towards the end. Spoiler alert, it's Hillary Clinton. But they'll reveal themselves towards the end. But deal with these collaborators. I almost slipped. Deal with the collaborators. Deal with the sellouts first and make bloody examples out of them. Politically speaking, of course. Professionally speaking, of course. Make very, very gruesome examples out of them. To where, see, a little bit of military talk. The worst job that you want to have is to be Al-Qaeda's number 2. You want these collaborators, once you clear out the Angela Ryes and you clear out the Roland Martin, well, he's already cleared out. He's on YouTube with us. But you clear out the Roland Martins, you clear out the Joy Reids. The only thing they can do is replace them. And you want the next person that's up to feel like, I don't want that job. I don't want to face those people. This won't even take that long. Look, you've only been doing this officially. You've been doing this for years. But this has only made it to a hashtag the last couple of months, and they're already talking reparations. They're already talking about the lieutenant governor is a descendant of slaves. They know we're not falling for that people of color stuff no more. They know we're not falling for, well, this person's black, how can you judge their blackness? No one's falling for that in the African American community no more. So stick to those strategy. Stick to that strategy. That'll get you through this first round with these detractors. It's not going to be as tricky as you think, but you can't be those sweet, wholesome people from the Breaking Brown podcast anymore. You guys got to get war ready. This is going to be dirty. We're here to help because y'all black folks. Be one.